cold CEO entered the hospital and found Black Newser with his daughter. Then he did the unthinkable. Her eyes held no fear as he pushed open the door. Only a quiet strength that made him step back despite himself. Have you ever misjudged someone based on first impressions? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. The last time Ethan Caldwell had felt fear this raw, he was 8 years old watching his mother collapse in their Ohio trailer. Tonight, at 38, standing in a Manhattan hospital corridor, that same terror clawed at his chest as he stared at room 314, where his 5-year-old daughter lay connected to machines he couldn't name. What would you do if you found a stranger holding your child's hand in a hospital room? Have you ever felt like you were failing as a parent? Like everyone else knew your child better than you did? Rain hammered the hospital windows as Ethan pushed through the double doors, his $1,000 shoes squeaking against polished floors. The call had come during a board meeting, his ex-wife's panicked voice cutting through his presentation about quarterly profits. Lily's in the hospital. Roosevelt, come now. That was 3 hours ago. 3 hours of Manhattan traffic, of calling his driver, of his assistant canceling meetings worth millions. None of it mattered. Nothing mattered except the little girl who called him daddy when she remembered he existed. Ethan was about to discover that sometimes the people we trust least are the ones our children need most. But what he saw next would challenge everything he believed about protection, prejudice, and the price of power. Room 314 glowed like a sanctuary in the harsh hospital lighting. Through the glass, Ethan saw her, Lily, so small against white sheets. Her dark hair spread across the pillow. But she wasn't alone. A young black woman sat beside the bed, holding Lily's tiny hand, speaking in soft tones that made his daughter's face light up with a smile Ethan hadn't seen in months. Who was this stranger? Why was she here? And why did Lily look more comfortable with her than she ever did during their awkward weekend visits? The woman was beautiful. He noticed that before he could stop himself. Maybe 28, with natural hair pulled back, wearing scrubs that somehow looked elegant on her graceful frame. She moved with quiet confidence, adjusting Lily's blanket with practiced hands, checking the foreline with gentle expertise. But beauty didn't matter. Not when his daughter was involved. Not when no one had called to tell him there was someone else in that room. Ethan's jaw tightened as he watched the stranger lean closer to Lily, whispering something that made his daughter giggle. Actually giggle, despite being hooked to monitors. When was the last time he'd made Lily laugh? When was the last time she'd looked at him with anything other than polite distance? The woman turned then, as if sensing his presence through the glass. Their eyes met, and Ethan felt something unexpected. Not just suspicion, but a jolt of awareness that had nothing to do with the situation and everything to do with the way she held his gaze without flinching. Tell me in the comments, have you ever misjudged someone based on first impressions? Her eyes held no fear as he pushed open the door. Only a quiet strength that made him step back despite himself. Mr. Caldwell, she said softly, rising from the chair, but keeping one hand on Lily's arm. Lily's been asking for you. Daddy. Lily's voice was weak but genuine, and for a moment, Ethan forgot about everything else. He moved to the bed, carefully avoiding the woman who watched him with those calm, assessing eyes. Hey, baby girl, how are you feeling? Better now that Jordan's here. She knows all the best stories, and she brought me juice boxes, the good kind, not the hospital kind. Jordan. So the stranger had a name, and apparently, she'd been here long enough to know Lily's preferences. Is that right? Ethan's voice was controlled, but something cold was building in his chest. And how long has Jordan been here? Since yesterday, Lily said matter-of-factly. She stayed all night, so I wouldn't be scared. All night. This woman had spent the night with his daughter, and no one had called him. His ex-wife knew he'd been in meetings, but she also knew he'd have dropped everything for Lily. He always did. Jordan must have heard the change in his tone because she stepped forward slightly, protective instincts clearly kicking in. Mr. Caldwell, I'm Jordan Mitchell, one of Lily's nurses. I want you to know she's been very brave. I'm sure she has. The words came out colder than he intended. But I'm curious why no one thought to mention that my daughter had company. Something shifted in Jordan's expression, a flicker of understanding, maybe even disappointment. She'd dealt with this before, Ethan realized. Suspicious parents, questions about her presence. But it was what she whispered next that stopped his world. "She's sicker than they told you." The words hit him like ice water. "What did you say?" Jordan glanced at Lily, who had closed her eyes, then back at him. Her voice dropped lower. "The test from this morning. Dr. Reeves wanted to discuss them with you in person, but..." She paused, choosing her words carefully. Lily's been asking questions. Smart questions. She knows more than anyone's giving her credit for. Ethan's business mind kicked in. The same instincts that had built his tech empire from nothing. Information was power, and this woman had information he didn't. That was unacceptable. What kind of questions? About why the medicines aren't working like they used to. About why everyone keeps drawing blood. About whether. Jordan stopped, her professional mask slipping just enough to show real emotion. About whether you'd be sad if she had to go away. The floor seemed to shift under Ethan's feet. Go away? Lily was here for a routine checkup, maybe an adjustment to her asthma medication. Nothing serious, nothing life-threatening. "You're out of line," he said quietly, but Jordan didn't back down. "I'm the person who's been here when she cried at 3 a.m. because her chest hurt. I'm the person who held her hand during the MRI when she was too scared to move. I'm the person she trusts with her fears." Jordan's voice remained steady, professional, but there was fire underneath. "So no, Mr. Caldwell, I don't think I'm out of line. I think I'm exactly where I need to be." As Jordan turned to face him fully, her eyes held no fear, only a quiet strength that made him step back. "Mr. Caldwell," she said softly, "Lily's been asking for you." But it was what she whispered next that stopped his world. "She's sicker than they told you." In the space of 30 seconds, Ethan Caldwell went from protective father to the kind of man he'd once sworn never to become. The kind who sees color before character, suspicion before compassion. Have you ever been so wrong about someone that it changed who you thought you were? Have you ever let fear make you cruel? Have you said things you can't take back? The words came out before his rational mind could stop them. "I want to know exactly who you are and why you think you have any right to discuss my daughter's condition with me." Jordan's composure didn't crack, but something shifted in her eyes, a recognition of what was really happening here. "I'm her nurse, Mr. Caldwell. It's my job too. Your job is to follow orders and stick to medical tasks. Not to play therapist with a 5-year-old or make parents feel like they're failing." Ethan's voice rose slightly, enough that a passing, orderly glance through the window. "And certainly not to spend the night in her room without proper authorization." "Ethan," Lily's small voice cut through the tension. "Jordan didn't do anything bad. She helped me when the scary dreams came." But Ethan was past listening to reason. The fear, the guilt, the months of feeling shut out of his own daughter's life. It all crystallized into anger directed at the woman standing calmly between him and Lily's bed. Ethan was about to learn that privilege doesn't protect you from being completely, devastatingly wrong. But what happens when the person you wrong holds the key to saving what matters most? "I want hospital security up here now," he said, pulling out his phone. "I want to know how this woman got unauthorized access to my child, and I want to know who's been allowing it." Jordan's professional mask finally slipped, not into anger, but into something worse, quiet disappointment. "Mr. Caldwell, if you'd let me explain..." "Explain what?" "How you manipulated a sick child into trusting you. How you've been playing house with my daughter while I've been..." He stopped himself, but the words hung in the air anyway. "While I've been what? Working? Building the empire that pays for this hospital, for her care, for everything?" Other staff members were gathering in the hallway now, drawn by the raised voices. Ethan could see them whispering, could imagine their assumptions. Rich white CEO attacking young black nurse. The optics were terrible, but he was too far gone to care. "Sir, I need you to lower your voice." Dr. Reeves appeared in the doorway, his expression grim. "You're upsetting other patients." "I'm upsetting other patients?" "This woman has been spending unsupervised time with my daughter and apparently discussing her medical condition without my knowledge or consent. I want her removed from this case immediately." Jordan finally spoke, her voice steady but strained. "Dr. Reeves, perhaps you should show Mr. Caldwell the authorization forms." "What authorization forms?" Dr. Reeves looked between them, clearly uncomfortable. "Mr. Caldwell, I think we need to have this conversation in my office." "No, we're having it right here, right now." "What authorization forms?" Jordan reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. With steady fingers, she scrolled through messages and held it out to him. The one signed by Lily's emergency contact. "The person who hired me to provide extended care." Ethan's blood went cold as he read the screen. Text messages spanning weeks. Detailed instructions about Lily's preferences, her fears, her schedule. All signed with a familiar signature. Elle's mom. Victoria. His ex-wife's number. "Drop a heart if you've ever had to defend yourself when you were just trying to help someone." "She hired you," he said slowly, the words tasting like ash. "Victoria hired you to what exactly?" "To be here when you couldn't," Jordan said quietly. "To make sure Lily wasn't alone during the long nights. To help her understand what was happening to her body. To advocate for her when the medical team got too clinical." She paused, meeting his eyes directly. "To love her when her parents were too busy fighting each other to see how scared she was." The accusation hit him like a physical blow. Because it was true. He and Victoria had been so caught up in their custody battles, their resentment, their wounded pride, that they'd forgotten the most important thing. Their daughter was watching it all. "You don't know anything about our situation," he said, but the fight was going out of him. "I know that Lily asks why Daddy only comes on weekends. I know she pretends to be asleep when you two argue in the hallway. I know she's afraid to tell either of you when she's really hurting because she doesn't want to make you more upset with each other." Each word was a knife, precise and devastating. Because Jordan was right. About all of it. "Daddy." Lily's voice was small, confused. "Are you mad at Jordan? She didn't do anything wrong. She's the best nurse ever." Ethan looked at his daughter, really looked at her. The pale skin, the dark circles under her eyes, the way she seemed smaller than she had just months ago. How had he missed it? How had he been so focused on board meetings and profit margins that he'd missed his own child fading away? When Jordan pulled out her phone and showed him the text messages, weeks of communication with someone signing as Elle's mom, Ethan's blood ran cold. His ex-wife's number. "She hired me," Jordan said quietly. "To be here when you couldn't." Some betrayals cut deep. Others shatter everything you thought you knew about the person who promised to love you forever. What's worse, being lied to about your child's health, or discovering everyone knew except you? Have you ever been the last to know something that changed everything? Have you felt that crushing weight of being shut out? Victoria appeared in the doorway like she'd been summoned by his rage. Still beautiful at 34, but there were new lines around her eyes, a tightness to her mouth that spoke of sleepless nights and difficult decisions. Her designer handbag clutched in white-knuckled fingers, her usual perfect composure showing cracks around the edges. "Ethan." Her voice was carefully neutral, but he caught the slight tremor underneath. "Dr. Reeves called me." "Did he?" Ethan turned from Lily's bedside, fury building in his chest like steam in a pressure cooker. "Interesting, because apparently everyone's been calling you except me." Victoria's eyes flicked to Jordan, who had moved protectively closer to Lily's bed. "I see you've met Jordan." "Oh, I've met Jordan. Why I haven't met is any honesty from my ex-wife about our daughter's condition." His voice was low but deadly. "Want to explain why I'm learning about Lily's health from her nurse instead of her mother?" Ethan was about to confront the woman who'd stolen more than his heart. She'd stolen months of his daughter's life. But when secrets this big come to light, someone always pays the price. "Can we please discuss this outside?" Victoria gestured toward the hallway. "Lily doesn't need to hear." "Lily doesn't need to hear what? The truth?" "Because apparently that's been in short supply around here." But even as he spoke, Ethan saw his daughter's wide eyes, the way she shrank back into her pillows. Jordan was right, again. They were scaring her. "Fine. Hallway. Now." The corridor buzzed with activity. Nurses checking charts, orderlies moving equipment, families clustered around doorways having whispered conversations about test results and treatment options. But when Ethan and Victoria faced each other, everything else seemed to fade into background noise. How long? His question was simple, but it carried the weight of months of frustration. Since her last hospitalization in March, Victoria's voice was steady now, falling into the cold professionalism she perfected during their divorce. The doctors found some irregularities in her blood work. March. Ethan's mind raced. That was 5 months ago. 5 months, Victoria. Yes. And you didn't think I deserved to know? Victoria's carefully constructed mask began to crack. Deserved? Let's talk about what you deserve, Ethan. You deserve the weekends you actually show up for. You deserve the phone calls you remember to make. You deserve the school plays you attend instead of sending your assistant with flowers and apologies. The words hit their target, but Ethan pushed through the guilt. So, this is punishment? You keep my daughter's medical condition secret because I missed a few. A few? Victoria's voice rose, drawing stares from passing staff. Try half, Ethan. You've missed half of everything. And when you do show up, you're checking your phone, taking calls, treating time with Lily like another item on your to-do list. That's not fair, isn't it? When was the last time you had a real conversation with her? Not about school or activities, but about her feelings, her fears, her dreams. Victoria stepped closer, her eyes blazing. Jordan knew within 2 days that Lily's favorite color changed from pink to purple. She knew that Lily's been having nightmares about monsters in her chest. She knew that our daughter has been asking questions about death. The last word hit Ethan like a physical blow. Death. Victoria's composure finally shattered completely. The experimental treatment has a 20% survival rate. 20%, Ethan. I couldn't watch you turn our daughter into a business decision. The hallway seemed to tilt around him. Experimental treatment. Survival rate. These were words for other people's children, not his Lily. What are you saying? I'm saying that our 5-year-old daughter has been asking if dying hurts. I'm saying she's been worried about whether you'd miss her if she wasn't here anymore. I'm saying that while you've been building your empire, she's been fighting for her life. When parents disagree about a child's care, who should have the final say? Share your thoughts below. The truth settled over him like ice water. All those canceled weekends, all those shortened visits, all those times Victoria had seemed tense and distracted, it hadn't been about their relationship. It had been about this, about protecting Lily from seeing her father fall apart. You should have told me. His voice was barely a whisper now. Should I? Should I have told you when you were closing the Singapore deal? When you were testifying in that patent lawsuit? When you were on the cover of Forbes talking about work-life balance? Victoria's laugh was bitter. I know you, Ethan. I know what you do when you're scared. You try to control everything. You throw money at problems. You turn emotions into strategies. She's my daughter. Yes, she is. And she needed her mother to protect her from becoming your next project. Victoria wiped away tears she probably didn't realize she was shedding. I hired Jordan because Lily needed someone who could love her without trying to fix her. Someone who could sit with her fear without immediately trying to eliminate it. The fight went out of him all at once. Victoria was right about all of it. When he was scared, he did try to control everything. He did throw money at problems. He did turn emotions into strategies because emotions were messy and unpredictable, and they didn't respond to quarterly projections or market analysis. What kind of treatment? Victoria looked toward Lily's room, where Jordan was sitting beside the bed again, showing Lily something on her phone that made the little girl smile despite everything. It's called CAR T-cell therapy. They take her immune cells, reprogram them to fight the cancer, then put them back. It's cutting-edge, experimental, and dangerous. Cancer. He said the word like it was foreign, like his mouth didn't know how to form it properly. Acute lymphoblastic leukemia. The regular treatments aren't working anymore. The corridor seemed to stretch endlessly in both directions. Other families walked past, some laughing, some crying, all of them carrying the weight of love and fear in equal measure. How long had he been walking these same halls, seeing these same faces, and missing the fact that his own family was drowning? Victoria's final words hung in the air like a death sentence. The experimental treatment has a 20% survival rate. I couldn't watch you turn our daughter into a business decision." As she walked away, Ethan turned to Jordan, seeing her not as an enemy, but as the only person who truly knew his child. Pride makes enemies of the people we need most, until desperation forces us to see past our own assumptions. When was the last time you had to work with someone you'd completely misjudged? Have you ever had to swallow your pride to save someone you love? The coffee shop 3 blocks from the hospital buzzed with the tired energy of 2 a.m. Nurses grabbing caffeine between shifts, worried family members killing time during visiting restrictions, medical residents studying for exams with textbooks propped against steaming mugs. Ethan sat across from Jordan at a tiny table meant for 2, his knees bumping hers in the cramped space. Neither of them had suggested this meeting. It had just happened, a mutual understanding that they needed to talk somewhere that wasn't filled with beeping machines and antiseptic smells. "I owe you an apology." The words felt foreign in his mouth, but necessary. "What I said in there, the way I treated you, that wasn't about you. That was about me being scared and stupid." Jordan wrapped her hands around her coffee cup, steam rising between them like a barrier. "I get it. Parents react badly when they feel shut out. I've seen it before. Have you been accused of what I accused you of?" A shadow crossed her features. "More often than I'd like. Comes with the territory when you're young, black, and good with kids. Some people see conspiracy where there's just compassion." The quiet honesty of it hit him harder than anger would have. She wasn't making excuses for him, wasn't pretending his assumptions hadn't hurt, but she also wasn't holding on to the pain in a way that would poison any chance of moving forward. Ethan was about to learn that sometimes the person you wrong becomes the person you can't live without. But can trust grow from the ashes of terrible first impressions? "Tell me about her," he said quietly. "Tell me what I've been missing." Jordan studied his face for a moment, as if deciding whether he was sincere. Whatever she saw there must have convinced her, because she leaned forward slightly. "She's brilliant. Not just smart for a 5-year-old, actually brilliant. She understands more about her condition than most adults would. She asks questions that make the doctors stop and think." Jordan's eyes softened. "But she's also scared, really scared. And she's been protecting everyone else from seeing how scared she is. Protecting us? She knows you and Victoria are struggling. She sees the tension, hears the arguments. So she puts on this brave face, tells everyone she's fine, makes jokes about being a superhero with special powers." Jordan's voice dropped. "But at night, when it's just us, she asks questions like whether angels have hospitals in heaven." Ethan's chest tightened. "Jesus, she loves you, you know. Talks about you all the time. About how smart you are, how you build a whole company from nothing. She's proud of you." Jordan paused, choosing her words carefully. "But she's also afraid that if she gets sicker, you'll be too sad to visit anymore." The truth of it was devastating because it was probably accurate. Not that he'd stop visiting, but that he'd become the kind of visitor who brought gifts instead of presents, who talked about treatment plans instead of feelings, who turned his daughter's hospital room into another place where he had to be strong and successful and in control. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted. "I don't know how to be the father she needs when I'm terrified I'm going to lose her." You start by showing up. Not CEO Ethan, not weekend father Ethan, just Dad Ethan. The guy who loves her more than anything but doesn't know how to say it. Jordan's phone buzzed against the table. She glanced at it and frowned. "It's Victoria. What does it say?" "Need you back at hospital. Lily asking for both of you." Jordan looked up at him. "Both of us? Have you ever found yourself attracted to someone at the worst possible time? Tell me about it in the comments." They walked back through empty Manhattan streets, their footsteps echoing off building walls, neither speaking, but both hyper-aware of the other's presence. Somewhere between the coffee shop and the hospital entrance, the dynamic between them had shifted, not to friendship exactly, but to something like alliance. "Jordan," he stopped walking just outside the hospital doors. "Yeah. Thank you for being there when I wasn't, for loving her when I was too scared to figure out how." He paused, meeting her eyes in the harsh light of the hospital entrance, for seeing her as a person instead of a problem to solve. Something passed between them in that moment. Understanding, maybe or recognition. The awareness that they were no longer on opposite sides of something, but working toward the same goal. Jordan's smile was small but genuine. "She's easy to love, your daughter." As they walked through the hospital lobby together, Ethan caught their reflection in the elevator doors. A rumpled CEO and a tired nurse, brought together by a 5-year-old girl who needed them both. It wasn't what he'd planned, but then again, the best things in his life never had been. As Jordan finally agreed to help him navigate Lily's care, her phone buzzed with a text that made her face go pale. "What is it?" Ethan asked. She looked up, eyes wide with fear. "Someone leaked this to the press. Your daughter's story goes live in 1 hour." In the age of social media, a private family crisis becomes public entertainment in 60 minutes or less. How would you handle it if your worst moment became tomorrow's headlines? Have you ever been judged by strangers who only knew half the story? The notification pinged on Jordan's phone at 6:47 a.m. Then Ethan's. Then Victoria's, who was already on her way back to the hospital with coffee and clean clothes for all of them. Tech CEO's daughter fighting for life. Inside story of hospital drama. Jordan read from her screen, her voice tight. Sources confirm bitter custody dispute, unauthorized medical personnel, racial tensions. Ethan felt the familiar surge of adrenaline that came with crisis management. But this wasn't a boardroom or a product launch. This was his family. This was Lily. How the hell did they get this? He was already pulling up his contacts, ready to call his legal team, his PR firm, anyone who could make this go away. Does it matter? Jordan's question stopped him cold. The damage is done. Look, she held up her phone, scrolling through social media feeds that were already lighting up with commentary, speculation, judgment from people who'd never met them, but felt qualified to have opinions about their choices. Ethan and Jordan were about to discover that when you're in the public eye, everyone has an opinion about how you should save your child. By 7 a.m., news vans were setting up outside Roosevelt Hospital. By 8 a.m., reporters were stopping staff members for comments. By 9 a.m., Ethan's assistant was fielding calls from news outlets, gossip blogs, and daytime talk shows, all wanting exclusive access to the story. "We need to get ahead of this," Ethan said, pacing the small family conference room Dr. Reeves had provided as sanctuary. "Control the narrative before it controls us." Control the narrative? Jordan looked at him like he'd suggested they hold a press conference in Lily's room. "This isn't a business merger, Ethan. This is your daughter's life." "Our daughter's life," she corrected herself, then looked surprised she'd said it. Victoria arrived with coffee and the grim expression of someone who'd had to push through a crowd of reporters asking about her parenting decisions. "They're calling it a custody battle. They're making it sound like we're fighting over her like property. Aren't we?" Jordan's question hung in the air like an accusation. I mean, isn't that what all this has been about? Who gets to make decisions? Who gets to be in the room? Who gets to be called family? The honesty of it was uncomfortable because it was partially true. Even now, even facing the possibility of losing Lily, they were still drawn into patterns of control and territory and ownership. "That's not what this is about," Ethan said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Isn't it? Your PR team wants to throw me under the bus, doesn't it? Make me the problem, the outsider who overstepped boundaries. Clean up your reputation at my expense." She was right. His team had already suggested exactly that strategy. Position Jordan as a well-meaning but inappropriate caregiver who'd gotten too attached. Frame the story as a protective father setting reasonable boundaries. Let her absorb the criticism while he emerged as the wrong party who'd handled a delicate situation with appropriate firmness. What's worse, being famous for the wrong reasons or being invisible when you need support most? "No," he said finally. "That's not what we're doing." "Ethan," Victoria started. "No, I'm not throwing Jordan under the bus for my mistakes. I'm not letting anyone else pay the price for my failure to be the father Lily needed." He looked directly at Jordan. "We're in this together now. All of us." Jordan's eyes widened slightly, as if she hadn't expected him to choose her side over his reputation. "The reporters are asking about our relationship," Victoria said quietly. "Yours and Jordan's. They think there's something romantic happening." Ethan felt heat rise in his cheeks. not because the suggestion was offensive, but because it wasn't entirely wrong. There was something happening between him and Jordan. An awareness, an attraction that had nothing to do with their shared concern for Lily and everything to do with the way she challenged him. The way she saw through his defenses, the way she made him want to be better than he was. "Let them think what they want," he said. "Our only concern is Lily." But even as he spoke, he was aware of Jordan beside him, of the way she'd unconsciously moved closer during the conversation, of how natural it felt to include her in the phrase, "our concern." "The legal team thinks we should get a restraining order," Victoria said. "Against the media. Keep them away from the hospital. Won't work. Too many public areas, too many ways in." Ethan was thinking like a businessman again, running scenarios. "We need to give them something else to focus on." "Like what?" "The truth." Jordan's voice was quiet but firm. "Not their version of it. Ours. Lily's story, told the way she'd want it told." Ethan stared at her. "You want to talk to reporters?" "I want to talk about a little girl who's braver than any adult I know. Who asks the hard questions and deserves honest answers. Who needs all the people who love her to stop fighting about territory and start fighting for her." The headline that broke them both wasn't about the medical crisis or the racial allegations. It was about the photo of Ethan's hand on Jordan's back as he guided her through the crowd. The caption read, "CEO's new romance blooms over sick child." Neither was prepared for how that lie would become their truth. Jordan's apartment door clicked shut behind them. The silence felt electric. "I shouldn't be here," Ethan whispered, but his feet stayed planted. Jordan turned slowly, her nursing scrubs replaced by a simple black dress that hugged every curve. "Then why are you?" Her voice held challenge and invitation. "Have you ever stood at the edge of a cliff, knowing one step changes everything?" That was Ethan now. His empire, his reputation, his carefully controlled world, all balanced on this moment. "Because Lily asked me something today," he said, stepping closer. "She asked why mommy never smiles when she talks about daddy, but she smiles when she talks about Miss Jordan." Jordan's breath caught. "What did you tell her?" "That some people make us better versions of ourselves." His fingers traced her jawline. "And some people, they make us forget who we used to be." Their first kiss tasted like forgiveness and rebellion. Jordan's hands found his shirt buttons while his found the zipper of her dress. Years of loneliness melted between desperate touches. "The media will destroy us," Jordan breathed against his neck. "Let them try." Ethan lifted her onto the kitchen counter, his hands exploring silk skin. "I'm tired of living for everyone else's approval." What followed was raw, passionate, and completely unexpected. The powerful CEO who controlled boardrooms surrendered completely to a woman who controlled his daughter's heart. Jordan discovered that beneath his armor lived a man starving for genuine connection. Later, wrapped in moonlight and tangled sheets, Jordan traced circles on his chest. "Your daughter is having surgery next week." Ethan tensed. "Victoria mentioned something." "It's serious, Ethan. More serious than anyone's telling you." Jordan sat up, medical professional returning. "That's why I've been spending so much time with her. She's scared, and she needed someone who wouldn't fall apart." The words hit like ice water. "How serious?" "Serious enough that she asked me to promise to take care of you if something happens." "Do you know what it feels like when your world tilts completely off its axis? When everything you thought mattered suddenly doesn't?" Ethan pulled Jordan closer, finally understanding why his 5-year-old daughter had chosen this woman as her anchor. "Have you ever realized you were fighting the wrong battle? Drop a comment. We love hearing your thoughts. And if this story is hitting different, smash that like button." Victoria's lawyer's office felt like a tomb. Mahogany walls, leather chairs, and the smell of expensive cologne couldn't mask the tension crackling between 3 adults who'd forgotten how to trust each other. "The surgery is scheduled for Friday," Victoria announced, sliding medical papers across the polished table. "Dr. Martinez says there's an 80% success rate." Ethan stared at the documents, medical terms swimming before his eyes. "And the 20%? Silence." Jordan, who'd been quiet until now, leaned forward. "The 20% means we lose her, Ethan. Victoria's voice turned sharp. Since when is there a we that includes the help? The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Ethan's jaw clenched, but Jordan placed a steady hand on his arm. Since your daughter started asking me to sing her to sleep because mommy's always on business calls, Jordan replied calmly. Since she started drawing pictures of our family that include me. Since she told me she wishes I was her real mommy. Victoria's face went white, then red. You manipulative little... Enough. Ethan's voice cut through the air like a blade. Jordan, can you give us a moment? After Jordan left, the silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. She's changing you, Victoria said finally. The Ethan I married would never choose some random nurse over his business reputation. The Ethan you married was dying inside, he replied. Maybe change isn't such a bad thing. This is about race, isn't it? Your little rebellion against everything we built. Ethan stood so fast his chair rolled backward. This is about love, Victoria. Something you forgot how to do somewhere between your third promotion and our daughter's first birthday. I never forgot. You scheduled her surgery during your Miami conference. You hired Jordan because dealing with a sick child interfered with your schedule. You're discussing custody arrangements while our daughter might die next week. The words hung in the air like smoke after an explosion. Victoria's mask finally cracked. I am terrified, Ethan. I'm absolutely terrified, and I don't know how to stop working long enough to feel it. For the first time in years, Ethan saw the woman he'd married. Broken, scared, and human. Then stop, he said quietly. Just stop. Have you ever watched someone you once loved become a stranger? What would you do if your child's life hung in a balance? Tell us in the comments. Thursday night, 24 hours before surgery. Lily's hospital room had been transformed into a fortress of love and fear. Jordan sat cross-legged on the narrow bed, painting Lily's fingernails bright pink while Ethan assembled a puzzle nearby. Victoria paced by the windows, phone pressed to her ear, canceling meetings she'd never thought she could cancel. Miss Jordan, Lily said, blowing on her wet nails, will you still love Daddy if I go to heaven? The room froze. Jordan's brush stopped mid-stroke. Ethan's puzzle piece slipped from his fingers. Even Victoria's phone call halted. Baby girl, Jordan whispered, you're not going anywhere. But yes, I'll always love you, Daddy. And you know why? Why? Because loving you taught me how to love him. Have you ever heard words that changed everything? That split your life into before and after? Ethan crossed the room in 3 steps, pulling both his girls into his arms. Victoria watched from the window, tears streaming down her face as she witnessed the family her daughter had built without her. Later that evening, after visiting hours ended, Jordan and Ethan walked through Central Park. The city lights twinkled like earthbound stars. I need to tell you something, Jordan said, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan's stomach clenched. What? I'm pregnant. The world stopped. Traffic sounds faded. Even the wind held its breath. How long have you known? He asked. 3 days. Since right after she gestured vaguely. The timing is terrible. With Lily's surgery, the media attention, your custody battle. Ethan spun her around, lifting her feet off the ground. The timing is perfect. How can you say that? Because Lily's been praying for a baby sister. Because this gives us something to fight for beyond tomorrow. Because... He set her down gently, cupping her face in his hands. Because I love you, Jordan Mitchell. Completely, desperately, forever. Their kiss tasted like hope and promises under the Manhattan sky. But neither of them noticed the photographer hiding in the shadows, camera clicking rapidly, capturing the moment that would change everything. Engagement question. What would you do if the person you love was about to face the biggest challenge of their life? Hit that subscribe button if you're invested in this family's journey. Friday, 6 a.m. Mount Sinai Hospital felt like a cathedral of hope and dread. Lily looked impossibly small on the surgical gurney, clutching a stuffed elephant Jordan had given her. Promise me something, Daddy. Anything, baby girl. Promise you'll marry Miss Jordan and give me that baby sister we talked about. Ethan's throat closed completely. How would a 5-year-old become wiser than all the adults around her? I promise, he whispered. Dr. Martinez appeared, surgical cap already in place. It's time. Victoria grabbed Lily's other hand. For the first time in months, she looked like a mother instead of an executive. Mommy loves you so much, sweetheart. I know, Mommy. Love you too. As they wheeled her away, Jordan collapsed into Ethan's arms. The waiting room became their prison for the next 6 hours. 3 hours in, Victoria broke the silence. I owe you an apology. Jordan looked up from her magazine. You don't owe me anything. Yes, I do. I accuse you of manipulating my daughter when the truth is, you saved her. You saved all of us. The words came slowly, painfully honest. I was so busy building an empire that I forgot to build a family. Lily needed a mother, and you became one. Ethan needed love, and you gave it freely. I needed to remember what mattered most, and watching you with them reminded me. Jordan reached across the uncomfortable plastic chairs and took Victoria's hand. She's going to be okay. How do you know? Because she has 3 parents who love her more than life itself. That's powerful medicine. Hour 4 brought Dr. Martinez back, still in scrubs, his face unreadable. The surgery went perfectly, he announced, and the waiting room exploded with relief and tears. She's asking for her daddy and Miss Jordan. In the recovery room, Lily's voice was hoarse but determined. Did you keep your promise, Daddy? Ethan looked at Jordan, then at Victoria, then back at his daughter. Not yet, baby girl, but I will. Good. Miss Jordan, will you marry my daddy? Jordan laughed through her tears. Is that your official proposal? Daddy's too scared to ask, Lily whispered conspiratorially. From her hospital bed, their 5-year-old matchmaker had orchestrated the most important moment of their lives. Have you ever witnessed a child change everything just by being honest? Drop a heart in the comments if this story is touching your soul. Sunday morning brought chaos wrapped in newspaper headlines and social media explosions. Billionaire CEO's secret baby with hospital nurse. Interracial scandal rocks Wall Street. Custody battle turns into love triangle. Ethan's phone buzzed with calls from board members, investors, and reporters. His stock price dropped 12 points before the markets even opened. Jordan sat in his penthouse kitchen, reading the articles on her tablet while sipping morning coffee. They make it sound like we planned this. Did we? Ethan asked, joining her at the marble counter. Even facing professional destruction, he looked more relaxed than he had in years. Plan to fall in love while your daughter was sick? Plan to get pregnant during a media storm? Plan to challenge every assumption about who belongs with whom? Jordan laughed. If we planned this, we're either geniuses or completely insane. Maybe both. His phone rang again. This time, he answered. Caldwell Industries. His voice was all business until he heard the caller. Mom? How did you? Yes, I saw the papers. No, I'm not ashamed. Yes, she's wonderful. When can you meet her? Jordan raised an eyebrow. Family meetings already? 20 minutes later, Victoria appeared at the door, looking exhausted but determined. We need to control this narrative before it destroys all of us. There's nothing to control, Ethan replied. This is our life now. Your board is meeting tomorrow to discuss your position. My partners are questioning my judgment in the custody case. Jordan's hospital is facing pressure from donors who don't appreciate the publicity. Jordan's coffee cup clinked against the saucer. They're going after my job? Not if I can help it, Victoria said firmly. I've hired the best PR firm in the city. We're going to tell our story, our way. Our story, Ethan asked. The story of how a sick child brought together 3 adults who forgot how to be human. The story of how love doesn't fit into neat categories. The story of how sometimes the best families are the ones you choose. Have you ever watched enemies become allies? Sometimes the biggest battles create the strongest bonds. That afternoon, they appeared together on the hospital steps. Victoria held Lily, who was finally home. Ethan had his arm around Jordan. To the world, they looked like the most unconventional family ever created. Questions? Victoria called out to the crowd of reporters. Is this about race? Someone shouted. This is about love, Jordan answered simply. The rest is just noise. What would you sacrifice for the person you love? And if you're loving this unconventional family's journey, make sure to hit that notification bell. 3 months later, Ethan stood in his penthouse office, Manhattan stretched below him like a chessboard he used to control. But today, control felt like smoke through his fingers. Mr. Caldwell, his assistant knocked. The board meeting starts in 10 minutes. Ethan loosened his tie. The lawsuit had cost him $12 million. Half his investors had pulled out. Stock prices dropped 40%. But none of that mattered anymore. What mattered was Jordan's text from this morning. Doctor says everything looks perfect. Can you make it to the appointment at 3? Their baby, growing healthy and strong inside the woman who taught him what love actually meant. His phone buzzed. Victoria's lawyer again. She wanted another custody hearing, claiming his unstable lifestyle made him unfit for Lily. The irony tasted bitter. He'd never been more stable in his life. Dad, Lily appeared in his doorway, backpack over her shoulder. Friday meant daddy-daughter time, a tradition that started after the hospital incident. Hey, princess, ready for our adventure? Are we seeing Jordan today? Lily's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. Ethan's heart squeezed. His daughter had been asking the same question for weeks. Jordan had been keeping distance, giving them space to figure out their relationship without pressure. Maybe, he said carefully. But Lily was smart. Too smart. You love her, don't you, Dad? The question hung in the air like incense in a church. Heavy, sacred, undeniable. Yes, Ethan whispered. I do. Then why don't you tell her? Sometimes wisdom came from the smallest voices. Ethan knelt down, a level with his daughter. What if she doesn't feel the same way? Lily giggled, the sound pure joy in his sterile office world. Dad. She touches her belly and smiles every time someone says her name. Jordan loves you too. The board meeting could wait. Some decisions were bigger than business. Have you ever had a 5-year-old give you the best advice of your life? Drop a heart in the comments if kids have ever surprised you with their wisdom. Jordan's apartment smelled like vanilla candles and fresh paint. She'd been nesting, preparing for their baby with the careful attention she gave everything important. Ethan stood in her doorway, flowers in one hand, his heart in the other. You came, she breathed, hand automatically moving to her rounded belly. Lily told me something today. Ethan stepped inside, closing the door behind him. She said you smile when people mention my name. Jordan's cheeks flushed pink. Your daughter talks too much. She gets that from her dad. Ethan set the flowers down, never breaking eye contact. Jordan, I need to tell you something. And I need you to let me finish before you respond. She nodded, settling onto her couch, pregnancy making her movements careful and graceful. I was wrong about everything. That night in the hospital, I saw you with my daughter and felt threatened. Not because you were black, not because you were a stranger, because you were better with her than I was. Jordan started to speak, but Ethan held up his hand. I've spent 6 months trying to win back control of my company, my reputation, my life. But the only thing I actually want control of is this moment. Right now, with you. He dropped to his knees in front of her, hands gentle on her belly where their child grew. I love you, Jordan Mitchell. I love how you make Lily laugh. I love how you challenge me to be better. I love how you fight for what's right even when it costs you everything. Tears streamed down Jordan's face, but she stayed quiet. I love how you hum when you work, how you cry at dog commercials, how you make hospital food taste like heaven just by sharing it with me. His voice cracked, months of buried emotion pouring out like a dam breaking. I love that you're carrying our baby. I love that you never asked me to choose between you and my career because you knew I'd choose wrong. I love that you're teaching me what family actually means. Jordan's hands covered his, their child moving between their palms like a blessing. Ethan, she whispered, I'm not asking you to marry me. Not yet. I'm asking you to build something with me. Something real. Something that can't be bought or sold or destroyed by lawyers or media or anyone else. Jordan leaned forward, forehead touching his. I love you too, she breathed against his lips. I have since that first night when you fell asleep holding Lily's hand. The kiss tasted like forgiveness and new beginnings. Share this video if you believe in second chances and real love winning over everything else. 6 weeks later, Lily pressed her ear against Jordan's belly, eyes wide with wonder. The baby's moving, she announced to everyone in Ethan's living room. Sunday dinners had become tradition. Jordan cooking, Ethan attempting to help, Lily providing commentary on everything. It looked nothing like the perfect family photos in magazines. It looked better. Feel this. Jordan guided Ethan's hand to where their son was practicing soccer moves against her ribs. Ethan's face softened, the same expression he wore the first time he'd felt the baby kick. Like witnessing a miracle he didn't deserve, but couldn't stop believing in. He's strong, Ethan murmured. Gets that from his mama. Jordan laughed, then winced as another kick landed. The doorbell rang. Lily raced to answer it before anyone could stop her. "Grandma," she shrieked. Ethan's mother, Patricia Caldwell, stood in the doorway holding a casserole dish and wearing her best church dress. She'd driven 3 hours from Ohio after Ethan called to tell her about the baby. "Mom," Ethan stood, tension creeping into his shoulders. Patricia's eyes found Jordan immediately, taking in the pregnant nurse who turned her son's world upside down. The silence stretched long enough to make everyone uncomfortable. Then Patricia smiled, the same warm expression that had comforted Ethan through childhood nightmares. "You must be Jordan. I brought my famous green bean casserole and about 1,000 questions." Jordan struggled to stand, but Patricia waved her down. "Don't you dare get up, honey. I've been pregnant. I know how that feels." She set the casserole on the counter and turned to face them all. "Now, somebody better explain to me why my son looks happier than I've seen him in 20 years, and why this beautiful woman is glowing like she swallowed sunshine." Lily giggled. "Grandma, they're in love and having a baby, and we're going to be a real family." Patricia's eyes filled with tears she didn't try to hide. "Well then, I guess I better start planning a baby shower." The evening dissolved into laughter, stories, and Patricia teaching Jordan family recipes while Ethan and Lily built blanket forts for the baby. Later, after Patricia had gone to her hotel and Lily was asleep, Ethan and Jordan sat on his balcony watching the city lights. "Your mom likes me," Jordan said, surprised at her voice. "My mom loves you. There's a difference." Ethan pulled her closer, careful of her belly. "She told me you're the best thing that ever happened to me." "And what did you say?" "I told her you're the best thing that ever happened to all of us." Jordan rested her head on his shoulder, their baby settling into sleep between them. Comment below, what's the most important thing families need to survive tough times together? 2 months early, on a Tuesday morning that started like any other, Jordan's water broke while she was making breakfast. "Ethan," her voice cut through his conference call like lightning through clouds. He found her gripping the kitchen counter, fluid pooling at her feet, panic written across her face. "It's too early," she gasped. "The baby's not ready." Ethan's business training kicked in. Assess, plan, execute. "We're going to hospital. Now." He helped her to the couch, grabbing their prepared bag with one hand while calling 911 with the other. "Sir, is the mother experiencing contractions?" the operator asked. Jordan doubled over, answer written in her expression. "Yes, they're close together." The ambulance arrived in 8 minutes. The ride to Mount Sinai took 12. Each minute felt like hours. "Mr. Caldwell," the paramedic's voice was calm, professional. "We need you to help keep her focused on breathing." Ethan held Jordan's hand, whispering words he didn't remember learning, but somehow knew by heart. "You've got this. Our boy is strong, just like his mama." At the hospital, everything moved fast. Nurses, doctors, machines beeping urgency into the air. But in the chaos, Ethan caught sight of familiar faces. Marcus and 3 other nurses from Jordan's old unit stood in the hallway, still in scrubs from their shifts, worry etched across their faces. "We came as soon as we heard," Marcus said simply. Even Dr. Rodriguez appeared, offering quiet encouragement and steady hands. In the delivery room, Jordan's pain carved lines across Ethan's heart. Every contraction, every cry, every moment of struggle reminded him that life was fragile, precious, not guaranteed. "I can see his head," the doctor announced. "Push, Jordan. One more time." And then, cutting through all the medical noise and beeping machines, came the most beautiful sound Ethan had ever heard. His son's first cry. Small, early, but perfect in every way that mattered. "He's breathing on his own," the doctor said, relief evident. 5 pounds, 2 ounces of pure determination. They place him on Jordan's chest, this tiny miracle with Ethan's stubborn chin and Jordan's perfect fingers. "Hello, baby boy," Jordan whispered, tears streaming. "We've been waiting for you." Ethan touched his son's hand, watched tiny fingers curl around his thumb with surprising strength. "What's his name?" the nurse asked, pen ready for paperwork. Ethan and Jordan looked at each other, having discussed this moment for months. "James," Jordan said softly. "James Mitchell Caldwell. After my grandfather," Ethan explained to the room, his voice rough with emotion. But the name carried more meaning than family history. It meant belonging. It meant choosing love over fear, family over reputation, truth over everything else. Have you ever witnessed a miracle that changed everything you thought you knew about what matters most? 1 year later, Lily sat cross-legged on the living room floor, reading "Goodnight Moon" to baby James, who gurgled appreciatively from his bouncy seat. "And goodnight mittens," Lily continued seriously. "James, mittens are for hands. You don't have mittens because you're a baby, but someday you will." Jordan watched from the kitchen, 8 months pregnant again, this time with her daughter. Some people called them crazy for having babies so close together. Jordan called it blessed. Ethan walked through the front door, briefcase in one hand, flowers in the other, a Tuesday tradition that started after James was born. "How are my favorite people?" he asked, kissing Jordan's forehead, then Lily's head, then lifting James from his seat. "James said da-da today," Lily announced proudly. "Well, it sounded like da-da. It might have been B-A-B-A, but I think he meant you." Ethan's face lit up like sunrise. "Did you, buddy? Did you say da-da?" James responded by grabbing Ethan's nose and laughing, the sound pure joy in their renovated Brooklyn brownstone. They'd moved out of Manhattan 6 months ago. Ethan kept his office in the city, but built their life somewhere with yards and neighbor kids and schools where Lily could walk to meet friends. His company had recovered. Not completely, but enough. More importantly, Ethan had learned the difference between success and significance. Success was building a billion-dollar business. Significance was James falling asleep on his chest during late-night feedings. Success was making Forbes' 40 under 40 list. Significance was Lily calling Jordan mom without being asked. "Victoria called today," Jordan said carefully, stirring pasta sauce. Ethan's jaw tightened. His ex-wife still fought the custody arrangement, still made demands, still tried to control situations she'd lost the right to control. What did she want? She wants to take Lily to Paris for spring break. Absolutely not. "Ethan," Jordan's voice was gentle but firm. "She's still Lily's mother." This was the dance they'd learned. Jordan keeping him grounded, Ethan protecting their family, both of them putting Lily's needs first. "I'll call her tomorrow," Ethan sighed. "We'll figure something out." "Hey." Jordan touched his face, making him look at her. "What did we promise each other?" "We handle everything together," Ethan said automatically. And love wins over fear every time. It had become their motto, words they repeated when lawyers called, when Victoria created drama, when business got stressful, when babies cried at 3 a.m. Love wins over fear every time. That evening, after dinner and baths and bedtime stories, Ethan and Jordan sat on their porch swing, watching fireflies dance in their backyard. "Do you ever think about that night?" Jordan asked. "In the hospital? Every day. Do you regret anything?" Ethan considered this seriously. The lawsuit had cost millions. His reputation took years to rebuild. Some friends never came back. Some opportunities never returned. "I regret how long it took me to see what was right in front of me," he said finally. "I regret that pride almost cost me everything that actually matters." Jordan's hand found his, their wedding rings catching porch light. "But I don't regret the path we took to get here. Because all of this, only exists because we chose each other when it was hard." A year and a half ago, Ethan Caldwell thought he knew what success looked like. Corner office, stock prices, power lunches, and board meetings and deals that made headlines. Now success looked like Lily's artwork on the refrigerator, James's first steps across their living room, Jordan humming while she cooked dinner, their unborn daughter dancing in her belly. Success looked like love chosen daily, family built intentionally, and second chances that became forever chances. The fireflies kept dancing, and Ethan Caldwell, father, husband, man who'd learned that winning meant something completely different than he'd ever imagined, watched them with wonder. Because sometimes the most beautiful things happen when you stop trying to control the light and just let it shine. Some stories don't end. They just become new beginnings. And if you believe that love really can win over fear, that families can be built from the most unexpected moments, and that second chances are always worth taking, hit that like button, share this story with someone.